So I don't think I've told you this story about how Nora, my wife, and I got so involved in the so-called AD trucks, the Advanced Design Series that ran from 47 through basically 54, or with this grill style, 47 through 53. And it was really started because she inherited a farm truck from her father, who was a farmer, and this was the truck that she learned to drive in. And they used this truck to haul fescue seed to town every year when they ran their combine. And so this truck that you can see right outside the window here is the 1948 ton-and-a-half truck that she inherited from her father. And so we actually drove that back in the 90s. She was still using it to haul seed to town. And then finally, after the farming operation stopped, it just became kind of what it is now, just kind of a lawn ornament. But that got us really interested in these series trucks. And so at one point we determined that we would try to own one of every version of these 48 trucks. So at one point we had a half-ton, we had this 3/4 ton, we had a Suburban, we had a school bus, and of course we had the ton-and-a-half. The only thing we were really missing was a cab over, and we never found one of those. And eventually we started getting rid of all of them except obviously the farm truck, which has sentimental value, and this because it was such an unusual find. This truck, I think, originally had 60-some thousand miles on it and had been stored in a barn for a good part of its life. And so it didn't have the usual cab rust, and floorboards weren't gone and that sort of thing. So we decided this would be a keeper. Well, 34 years later, it's finally on the road, and all kinds of things contributed to that being something that took that long to happen. I originally envisioned this as a modernized 3/4 ton truck, because it started as a 3/4 ton, a 3600. And I was going to put, matter of fact, I even had bolted on a square body C2500 front crossmember and 3/4 ton rear axle, and was going to put an old school small block engine in it. So we did that project, and then the LS thing came along with the BMW swap, and so time after time, this project got shoved over in the corner someplace. And then I think I told the story in one of our blog posts online that I almost had it running and then somehow dropped a bolt or something into the engine, and so I had to take the engine all apart to fix that. So just one thing after another, and so here we are, we're finally on the road. Running and driving like a real truck. That was some highway miles and some in-town driving, and so I checked the fuel economy when I got back. I drove 52 miles and it filled up with 2.6 gallons, so best I can tell, that's 20 miles per gallon. And I don't have the speedometer hooked up yet, so I was using my GPS speedometer on my phone, which does record the maximum speed that you land on that trip, which was 78 miles an hour. Most of the time I was cruising between 70 and 75, so cruising at that speed and still getting that kind of gas mileage, I think that was pretty amazing. So one of the things that I was curious about when I did this front suspension, which is a narrowed Crown Vic Ford suspension. The F100 guys have been using those for years, but F100s are quite a bit wider than this truck, so they can just be bolted on without too much trouble. This needed to be, for this truck, it needed to be narrowed 5 inches, and so then that meant a different rack opinion to make sure there was no bump steer and all the geometry was correct. So tested all of that ahead of time, but of course, until you actually have it on the road, you don't know if it's going to be correct or not. So I'm very happy with it. It runs down the road very straight, very stable. Even though I don't have a front sway bar on it, it doesn't lean over in the corners that much. And so the ride quality is a little firm because these are police interceptor springs, which means they're a little stiffer. And this truck doesn't weigh as much as a typical Crown Vic. So that means the spring rate is effectively a little higher. But on the highway, it's very comfortable. Here on this gravel road, you can feel some of the gravel and some of the bumps. So there's a little bit of harshness when you're sort of off-road like this road is, but on the highway, it's very comfortable.
Well, thanks for the ride.
You're welcome. So what was your first impression?
I mean, a ride's nice. I mean, it sounds and feels like an old truck, but at the same time, as you described, the driving experience isn't that unlike a fairly comfortable modern.
And it's still noisy because there's no sound deadening in here. There's no floor mats. There's no seals around the doors.
Yeah, it's
all of that work yet to be done. There's a vintage air system that partially installed, but not all the tubes and the controls aren't in yet. So there's that to be done. And we'll see if we can quieten some of that stuff down.
Oh, yeah, we got bare metal there.
So still lots of detailing to be done, but a major milestone just to have it on the road and driving and be able to actually use it as a daily driver.